looking at redrawing something that we found perhaps somewhere else. I've actually got a drawing on the screen at the moment which I've got from the fabulous website WGSN. This is one of their flats, and I'm going to redraw it, not for any scandalous reason at all or anything sinister, but just because I think things happen to these drawings in the upload and download process which makes it very hard to adapt the drawing. So if, for example, I wanted to make this dress shorter or longer, or I wanted to add sleeves or just alter the neckline slightly, all those changes become a little bit difficult because of what happens to these drawings. They're either drawn this way for a reason, which I don't really understand, or it happens in the upload and download process. We've got this, which is the thick outline. Now, the WGSN drawings, this is always the topmost layer. There's no fill on here. It's just a black line around the edge, and it always goes on the top. I always put my thick line as the bottommost layer. It's just how I was taught to do it, and it's what I always do, and it doesn't cause the same kind of issues. This is the main drawing layer, and there's no fill on here because the fill is separate. Again, I don't know if it was drawn that way or whether or not it's got something to do with the upload-download process, but it does make for tricky edits. Now, if you take the time to draw your own, you can create your own drawing with a little bit of practice. Obviously, I'm going to be much quicker than you guys. Well, some of you guys, I bet you some of you can go quicker than me. But that's because I've been doing it for quite a long time. If you're new to this, then it might be a little bit intimidating to have a go at drawing your own when the requirements for your brief aren't really about your own drawing, so you can take things off WGSN. But I'm trying to make your life a little bit easier. So if you take the trouble to learn how to draw your own, one, it's an added skill, and secondly, it does make life a lot easier. This is the WGSN drawing that I just showed you on the previous page. This drawing is my own, which I've taken the inspiration from this. I basically, it's my copy. Now you can see I've got a slightly different drawing style. I tend to draw things that are a little curvier, so I've got a few more curves in my drawing. The neckline is slightly more drapey. This is kind of a little bit angular for my taste, and I've done the little spaghetti straps slightly differently as well. So I have copied it, but it has got my drawing style all over it, and it took me probably about 20 minutes start to finish to draw this first version. Okay, then after that, to make the adaptations for perhaps different seasons, or maybe creating dresses for different occasions. This kind of looks a little bit officey, this dress with the sleeves, and this kind of back. This is kind of a more evening kind of summer evening. Then we've got something that's a little less formal. It's got this kind of a more flared skirt rather than this rather straight one, and we've got a slightly different neckline going on, but we've still got this cowl. All these four dresses followed this one in about another 20 minutes. So to draw 5, the original plus these 4, took me about 40 minutes in total. Now, realistically speaking, it would take me about 40 minutes to work out how this had been drawn in the first place by picking it apart and getting rid of the bits that I don't need and gluing other bits back together. So for me, it seems like a no-brainer to draw your own garment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the WGSN version again, and I'm going to show you how I did this. So this is my mannequin, and here's my WGSN dress, which I'm using for inspiration. I'm just going to keep it close by so I don't have to keep zooming in and out too much. And I'm going to show you how we can create this first dress. It takes about 20 minutes, so let's get on with it. I'm going to just choose my pen tool, and I'm going to start at this point here on the dress, and I'm going to imagine that my straps, now all these lines on my mannequin here are here for a reason. This is kind of the lines that you're going to follow. So I'm going to start here and come down, and obviously I don't want to come too low because I don't want the dress kind of hanging down here somewhere. So I'm going to come down to about here and put my first point in, like so. And then I'm going to come to below the arm. Now on this mannequin version that I've got, I've drawn in a skin tight line, which you can just see this fine green line, dotted line. This is my skin tight line. So if you're creating anything that's close to the skin, you know exactly what the shape of the body is. All these others, it's almost as though there's garments already on the body. So I'm using this dotted green line here to guide me. So I'm going to come in to about here, I think, like so. And then I'm going to come in quite tight to the waist, like so. And then I'm going to click out on the widest part of the hip here. I'm not trying to put curves in. If you've watched any of my videos before when I'm drawing flats, I tend not to. It's much quicker just to get on and draw. I'm going to put a little point in here, I think, and then I'm going to just kick out ever so slightly at the bottom, like this. So I'm actually coming down to full trouser length. This one is a little shorter, but I'm going to make my dress a little bit longer, like so. And then I'm going to switch my tool from the pen tool to the anchor point tool. You can use keyboard shortcuts if you like. For this tool, it's Shift-C. And then I'm going to add some curves. Now I'm going to zoom in to do this so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to add a curve onto this line segment here, just by using this tool and clicking and dragging ever so slightly. I want the gentlest of curves. I don't want anything too dramatic. And then I'm going to add a curve on the waist just by pulling this down. This is kind of my drawing style. I don't like these, you know, in-out things that you see rather a lot on WGSN, but again, it's personal taste, I guess. Then I'm going to have a nice curve over the hip, like so. So I've got this kind of in-out, and then another curve just here, so the dress just flares out gently at the bottom, and that's that. So when I'm happy with how this line looks, I can deselect it and then reselect the whole line, like so. And I'm going to use the reflect tool. So I'm going to position my cursor on this central blue line on my mannequin and hold the Alt key while I do it. This will ensure I get a dialog box coming up here. And I'm going to make sure I'm reflecting across the vertical axis. And if I put preview on, you can see exactly where that line is going to end up. Now I don't want to just flip it over, I need to make a copy of it. So I've got this copy button, so I'm going to hit that, like so. So now I've got both sides of my dress in, and I'm going to just join up these two bottom points here. So I can do that just by selecting across both of them and right click and join. So that's the bottom of my dress. Now I need to put this little design in here. It's kind of a bit of simple draping, but I'll do that in just a second. I'm just going to have a little look at my corners, and you can see they're quite sharp here. I don't like drawing with such sharp corners. So I'm going to go to my my stroke panel, and I'm going to just change the caps and corners to a round cap and a round join, just so as it gives us this nice gentle rounding. Now I can then add in my my gentle curves, and I'm going to do this by using the Add Anchor Point tool, and I'm going to pop a little point there and another one in corresponding position on the other side, and yeah, I'm going to stick with something like that, and then I'm going to select every alternate point, and to do that I'm using the shift key. So I've selected this point and then missed that one, and then I've selected this point, missed this one, and selected this one. So I've got 3 points selected with the ones in between not selected, and then I'm going to use the down arrow on my cursor keys just to move those points down a touch. Then I can add my curves in using the Anchor Point tool again, and I'm just going to click and drag so I get a nice gentle curve. If you want to, you can hold the shift key to make sure they stay absolutely horizontal. Like that, and then I can do the ones at the top as well. Obviously, if you want them to be a little more extreme, you can put more gathers in like this, but I want to keep this quite subtle. So now I've got some shape along the bottom of my my dress. All right. So now I'm going to have a go at this cowl neck that we've got going on. So this is where I do need a little bit of reference. Even if I wasn't using a WGSN drawing, if I was drawing something from scratch, I often look for photographic images so I can draw from an image. It's much easier than trying to imagine how fabric is going to actually drape. So I can see that this kind of needs to come down here. So I'm going to choose my pen tool, and I've got the path open here, and if I continue to draw, you can see it's going to add onto this path. So I'm going to add on to my anchor point here, and I'm going to come down to about here. Again, I'm not putting a curve in, I'm just going to do something like this. All right, and then I switch back to my anchor point tool, and we can add some curves. So I'm going to bring this down a touch, okay, and I'm going to move that up a little bit, and I'm going to round this off. Okay, so you can have a play with all these things until you get the shape that you want. I want something that's a little bit more flowy than this version. Again, it's all about your own kind of drawing style, really. So I think that's suiting me. And then I'm going to draw in this piece here. Okay, so this little, where it kind of forms this cowl, and I'm just going to go back to my pen tool, and I'm going to, first of all, actually I'm not going to use my pen tool, I'm going to use the Add Anchor Point tool, and I'm going to add an anchor point about here. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to select this point and I'm going to copy this point. And what it will do is it will copy this piece of line segment up to this piece of line segment. So if I copy and then paste in front, you can see now that I've just got, if I zoom in so you can see, that little piece of line pasted in here, okay? And then I can join it together like this. And if I want to, I can add some shape again. So I can switch back to my anchor point tool and add a little bit of shaping. I don't want to go mad. It's almost straight. And it's not these big shapes that are making this look like a cowl. It's all these extra lines that we've got going on. So we'll add those in just a few minutes. I'm just going to add a little bit of grey in here just to give it some depth. So I'm just going to change the fill. I'm just going to use this light grey like so. So that now looks like this. So I'm going to switch back to the pen tool and I'm going to draw a path in. Now I've got nothing selected because I don't want to join up with anything, but I'm just going to add a point here and come to about here, I think. Hit return, and I'm going to change the profile of this line that I've just drawn because it's the same width all the way through, because that's the default for Adobe Illustrator, but we do have other profiles we can use, and I'm going to use this one. This is one of my favorites. I use it all the time. It's width profile 4 and it looks like a little wizard's hat or a bird's beak, and that's what it'll give me, okay, this kind of look. Okay, and then we need to add some straps onto our dress. Now, if we wanted to, we could actually make this look like a cross back dress. So, in fact, I might actually draw the back of this dress in another video just to show you how we can do that quite easily. So I'm going to start by just zooming in, and I'm going to use the pen tool, and I'm going to start about here, and I'm going to follow this line up. This is the line that I used when I was deciding where to start my dress. So this is going to be the line where the strap is going to run. So I'm going to just start just inside the dress, come up to the shoulder and stop. And if I hit return, I can then go to my stroke panel and just increase the weight of my, my line. I'm taking up to 3 point. Okay, and I've got these rounded caps and corners. Now I quite like that because it kind of gives the impression that this has got it's going over the hill, so to speak, over the shoulder. What I'm going to do with this now is I'm not going to leave it as a stroke. I'm going to actually convert it to a shape, and by going to the object menu and going to path, I can choose outline stroke. Okay, now what this has given me is we've now got the stroke through the middle and the outline, which is great because I can use both parts of this. I can select this outer part here, and if I press I on my keyboard, you can see my cursor is changed to a little eyedropper, and if I click here, you can see I've now got exactly the same fill and stroke on my strap as I have for the rest of the garment. Okay, and if I deselect, let's just see what happens if I've just locked this shape, so I can now pick up the thing that's underneath it. I know there are other methods of doing it. I'm just a bit long in the tooth to be changing my ways. So I've gone to my stroke panel, and you can see here I've got this light grey fill, which I don't want. So I'm just going to take that off and bring my my stroke to the foreground here, and I'm just going to make the stroke black. and then we're going to add a dash line and I'm going to just take the weight all the way down to 0.25, and you're probably wondering where the hell the line is. I will show you in a second. If you remember, I had to lock this because this line is now behind, but if I cut it, so I'm using Command X to cut, I've picked the whole thing up, there we go, so I just want the line. So I'm going to cut it and paste it in front, and you can see there's that dash line. Okay, so I've got like a stitch line going up through my little spaghetti strap there. If you're not quite sure about the stitch line, if you want to, you can pick that up and change the cap to rounded. I also like to use this, which aligns all the dashes to the corners. I know I've only got a straight line at the moment, but that's my preferred method. So that's that bit so far. Now it's not in the right place at the moment, but I'm not going to worry too much. I'll get my layer order in place in a moment. I'm just going to draw a similar line, only this time we're going off at an angle. I'm going to start in the same place. Okay, now I need to be careful I don't end up joining lines up, so I'm just going to lock this. So I've locked that, so that can't be picked up anymore. If you're wondering what the keyboard shortcut for lock is, it's Command 2 or Control 2 if you're working on a PC. And now we're going to start here, and I can do this now safely without adding onto that path. And I could come down, the further I come down over here, the more likely the straps are to cross at the back. I think I'll just keep it simple for now and just put my line in there. Now you can see it's using the last stroke that I used, which is this dash line. So I'm just going to change this up to a 3-point line, which is what we had before, with round caps and corners. And I'm going to take the dash off because you can see it's kind of a bit lumpy. So I'm just going to take that dash off. It's also not black. So I'm just going to take that down to there. And again, I'm going to go to Object and change that path to Outlines. Just going to do that again. And for some reason it hasn't given me that centre line, but never mind, I'm not going to worry too much about it. Again, I'm going to use my eyedropper to paint that in the same style as the other part of the strap and the dress. Now I should have drawn this a little longer. Can you see how this is curving here? So I'm just going to undo and go back and just extend this line so I don't have that as a problem. That's why I did it like that here, but I just need to come down a bit further and then go through that process again. So Object and Path and Outline Stroke, and then eyedropper, and there we go. Now if I want to, I can just add in a line through that. There we go. Now this should really be at the back, so I'm going to just group these two pieces together because they don't naturally belong together. So Command G to group it, and then I'm going to cut it and paste it in the back like so. I'm going to unlock that other part. And now they're both in the back like that. So that's one strap completed. I'm going to just group these together, and I'm going to reflect them over to the other part of my dress, or the other half of my dress, and copy that. And now we have two straps in place. So you can see that this dress is really coming together really quickly. And then we're just going to finish it off with some draping lines to give it a little bit of form. So I'm going to, let's see where they've put theirs. Okay, well, I'm going to put a line in here. Again, I don't add any kind of curve or shape at this stage. I literally just put the lines in and then shape them. She says, and then probably puts a curve in. Now I'm drawing in different directions. Now the reason for that is because if you're using some of these different profiles, the direction that you draw the line determines which end is thick and which end is thin. So for that profile number 4 that I showed you before, where you start the line is always the thick end. Okay, let's just right. Well, let's deal with these lines on the bodice of the dress first of all. So I'm just going to add some shape. So I'm literally just adding a little curve in the center of each line and just pulling it down slightly, give that kind of draping look. And then I can pick up each one of these lines. Be careful not to pick the actual garment up. So I'm shift clicking on each one, like so, and then I can change the profile. I'm going to use this profile this time. This is width profile number 1, and it tapers at the beginning and then tapers again at the end, like this. I need to go a little bit thicker than this very thin weight, like so. And I might also use a kind of mid-grey for those lines, like that. Then I'm going to add some more vertical kind of lines on the skirt of the dress. Okay, and I'm going to just put a few down here. Again, you don't have to put shape in straight away if you don't want to, because these are a little longer. I can do this, it's a bit quicker. And again, I'm going to shift click to select each one and change the profile. Like that. And I'm just going to add a little bit of shape here on the waist. So I'm going to kind of come up, draw a little line. This one's going to be a tiny little black line. So I've made it the same colour as the rest of the drawing. And again, shift select them to pick them both up and change the profile like this. Not quite right, those. I think I need to make them a different profile. I'm going to use this one. That's better, and just make that a little longer. Oops. Get hold of that handle that one of you picked up. There we are. And then this one is also going to have the profile number 4. Just lengthen that slightly. There we go. So let's have a little look and see how that's looking. There we are. So I've just got this hemline to put in, and then my dress is complete. So I'm just going to zoom in. I'll show you a little cheats way of doing this. It's quite good, this method, because the lines won't be exactly parallel, which works perfectly for a simulated hemline. So I've just picked up all the points along the bottom of the dress, but not the corners. And then I'm going to copy that and paste in front. And then I'm just going to use my cursor keys to move that up to wherever it is I want the hem to be. Now, the higher up I go, you can see this is now longer than the width of the skirt, but that's absolutely fine. We can just trim that off in a second. So I'm going to put my hemline here, and I'm just going to put a little dashed line in there, like so. Obviously it's too thick at the minute, so I'm going to just take the width of the line down to 0.25 points. And you can see I've also got a white fill on here because it was copied off this bottom line. So I'm just going to take that fill off, and then I'm going to zoom in and just trim off these little bits that I don't need. So I've got my scissors tool. If you can't find your scissors tool, if you find the eraser, they live in the same place. So I'm just going to chop that off and just select that bit and delete it, like that. And then if I go to the other side, I'm going to do exactly the same, using the scissors and chop, and then select the extra bit and delete. And there we have our finished dress, and it's taken about 20 minutes. Now, if I wanted to, this has got a little fill on here. Now, the fill, I'm just going to draw a little square there, and what I can do, just as a bit of a cheat, is just drag this over here and it becomes a new fill for me. So I can select that, and then I can fill that so it's the same kind of pale, not quite white fill as this dress. Now, I'm not going to add my thick line on just yet. I'll do that when I've created another version. I'm not going to make 5 versions. I'm just going to make one version for you, and I'm just going to add a piece or change the neckline. So I'm just going to pick this up and move it. So you need to make sure that you have got nothing locked. Okay, so make sure you unlock everything. It's Command Alt and 2 to unlock everything. So now I know everything's unlocked, and I can just move that. And if I move it and hold the Alt key, I will make a copy. Okay, so I've got my dress here, and this is the one that I'm going to adjust. It's always the one that's sitting on the mannequin that gets adjusted. Just going to zoom in on the top part of my dress, because this is where I'm going to do my changing. I'm going to use this tool here to, actually I won't, I'm going to use this and delete those straps. Okay, now that might be all you're going to do. You could have it as a strapless cowl neck dress. That looks quite nice. But I'm going to add something else. I'm going to come all the way up to the shoulder. Now you can see that the line of the dress, if you can imagine it going up here and down to the point of the shoulder where it would come to, you can almost imagine how that would fill in here. All right, so that's the shape that I'm going to draw. So I'm going to start here on the point of the shoulder. It tells me exactly where that point is as well. So I'm going to just click there and come up to the shoulder. Again, I'm not adding any curves in here, but I'm trying to imagine where that line might end up. So about here, I think. And then I'm coming down to the point of the shoulder, and I'm going to come down to here, and then I'm going to just close that path. All right, you're thinking, that looks really rubbish. And at the moment it does, but I'm going to just smooth things out a little bit in a second. I'm going to just add a tiny curve in here, like that, and a little curve that way. There we go. So that looks okay. I now need to join this piece that I've just drawn up with the rest of the dress. So I'm going to select it and shift select the main part of the dress, and then I'm going to use Pathfinder to unite those two shapes. Now as soon as you do that, it becomes the topmost object, so all those shaping lines and everything else that we carefully put in before look like they've disappeared, but they haven't. They are just now lying behind. So all we need to do with this is send this to the back. Okay, so if you right click and go to arrange and send to back, they magically reappear. Okay, now I'm just going to double check, because I've got a funny little thing going on there where I haven't drawn this particularly carefully, so I'm going to just deal with that. Okay, in fact, I'm going to more than deal with it, I'm going to undo what I've just done, because I forgot to copy onto the other side. So let's just undo that. So, and I'm going to just sort that problem out now, because I know it's going to appear. So I'm just going to bring that down to there, and hopefully now when we do this it won't give us the same issue. So I'm just going to copy this and flip it over. So sorry about that. And click copy. And then I can, one at a time, add these to my dress like this. Same on this side, and join it together. And then right click, arrange and send to back. And now we've got a completely different dress. It's got these kind of proper straps, if you like. So it's a sleeveless dress rather than a strappy dress. And now we could go on to add in sleeves, we can change the length of the dress, all sorts of different things that we could do. Okay, one thing that I think this dress should have though is I think we should be able to see the back of the dress. And to draw that quickly, I'm going to just take the front of the dress and I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it behind. Okay, and I can even make a new layer for it if I want. So I'll call it dress back, like this, and I'm going to drag this selection, which is at my copy, to this layer, and then I can drop the layer behind like that, and then I can switch off the front layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this shape here, and to do that it couldn't be simpler. I'm just going to remove these anchor points like that, and that, I really like that shape, so that's what I'm going to settle with. And I'm just going to fill this in with a slightly darker grey, like so. Put that back on. I'm going to go a tad darker with the grey, so it's a little bit darker than the cowl. There we are. And there's my my new dress. Okay, so there we go, and that one took me about 5 minutes to make that adaptation. Much quicker than trying to adjust this dress. and that's all there is to say about that. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you all again soon. I'm just going to select this back piece now, and I'm going to copy it. So I've copied it to the pasteboard, Command or Control C, and then I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to call this one Outline Layer. There we go. And then I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to select it and paste behind. And then I'm going to drag that down. So I've got a version of the back layer, okay, this back piece on this layer. If you want to see what that looks like, if I turn that off, that's what we've got. So this is going to be what I'm going to use to add my my outline. So the interior of this isn't important, it's all about the stroke. So I've just brought the stroke to the front, and if I go to my stroke panel and just change the weight of my line to about 3 point, and then switch on my other layers, and you can see it now looks like a finished drawing because it has this heavier line around the outside of the drawing, like so. If you don't like the 3 point line, you can always make it maybe a 2.5, something like that, if you feel that that's a little heavy. I actually quite like this. Let's just see what it looks like. It's slightly lighter. 2 point isn't heavy enough, so I think 2.5. And that's what that looks like. And then I could do the same thing for this dress as well. And that's it. So that's how we add the outline onto our finished dress. And if you were to carry on, you could end up with these kind of variations. So you can alter the dress length, add sleeves on, take the fullness out of the skirt and make it more of a pencil style skirt. There's tons of stuff you could do. So that's it. See you next time.